Hi there, strikers. There's something uniquely disturbing about people vanishing into thin air. Read about these incredibly strange, unsolved cases. Although these disappearances span centuries, locations, age ranges, and circumstances, there's one common thread shared between them: a lack of closure. There are theories, speculations, and investigations, but never a decisive answer. On our incoming episode, I'm going to feature some of the cases of mysterious disappearances, of some missing that just disappear without any trace. The lack of evidence in some of these missing persons cases not only hinders the investigation, but leaves a lot of room for conjecture, speculation, and conspiracy. The ominous disappearance of an Australian pilot in 1978, for example, has led many to blame aliens. Their most chilling unsolved disappearances below involve a broad range of shadowy entities, from the Italian mafia to secretive satanic worshippers, and they have implicated some of the world's most powerful people.
The Bennington Disappearances, southwestern Vermont, is known for its bucolic setting. But 193 square kilometer area of thick woods was also the scene for one of America's great enduring mysteries. Between 1945 to 1950, a string of unsolved disappearances occurred in what became known as the Bennington Triangle. It shook the surrounding communities, and has puzzled everyone to this day. Since he was a child, the unknown had fascinated New England author Joseph A. Citro. This part of the bizarre began by writing horror stories. Then, like Charles Fort before him, he doggedly collected regional folklore, paranormal stories, and generally strange occurrences. To Citro, this part of Vermont's Green Mountains was a hotspot for unaccountable disappearances and sightings of supernatural creatures. He called the area the Bennington Triangle. Bennington had had bad luck since the 1800s. Its local economy, mainly mining and logging, collapsed. Tourism failed, and a huge flood devastated the community at the close of the 19th century. This bad luck followed into the 20th century. From 1945 to 1950, 6 people disappeared, one after the other. The first was Karl Herrick in November 1943. This incident is often overlooked in discussions about the Bennington disappearances because a body was found and a definitive cause of death was given. Karl was hunting with his cousin Henry 16 kilometers northeast of Glastonbury Mountain, which lies at the center of the triangle. The pair got separated, and Henry contacted authorities to look for him. After a few days, searchers found Herrick's body. His gun was nearby with no bullets discharged. The autopsy determined that the cause of death was squeezing. His ribs had punctured his lung. The townsfolk did not show any particular concern afterward. 2 years later, an experienced hiker and hunter named Middy Rivers went missing on November 12, 1945. The 74-year-old was guiding a group of 4 hunters on a mountain trek. He was very familiar with the trail, as he had walked it multiple times. However, after going ahead of the group at a spot called Hell Hollow Brook near the Long Trail and Vermont Route 9, he was gone. Firemen, local volunteers, and eventually the U.S. Army searched for Rivers for over a month. The only clue they found was one rifle cartridge. No body was found, and the case remains unsolved. A year later, in 1946, an 18-year-old student at Bennington College named Paula Jean Weldon told her roommates that she was going to the Long Trail for a hike. A local man named Lewis Knapp gave her a ride and dropped her off a few kilometers from the trail. On arriving, she spoke with some hikers before she ventured off on her own. She was last seen on December 1st, wearing a red coat. A 4-week search, led by her father and the police, began. However, all leads became dead ends, with no hope in sight. Paula's father believed that she might have had a secret boyfriend whom either she ran away with or who killed her. Paula's father left Bennington, never to return. Her case is unsolved as well. The tale gets stranger. Exactly 3 years after Paula's disappearance, a 68-year-old World War II veteran named James Tedford disappeared on a moving bus. He was visiting friends out of town and was heading back to Bennington by bus. 14 passengers confirmed that he did not get off the bus before Bennington and was sleeping throughout the trip. His belongings were still on his seat. To this day, there is still no explanation for his disappearance, unless all the witnesses thought wrong or were lying. On October 12, 1950, 8-year-old Paul Jepson was with his mother while she worked on their family farm. She left her son in her pickup while she fed the farm's pigs for an hour. When she returned, he was gone. He was last seen wearing a red coat. An immediate search of the farm and surrounding area was conducted. A police bloodhound followed the scent to a crossroads, where it eventually faded. The trail was in the general direction of Glastonbury Mountain, which Jepson was obsessively talking about for several days before his disappearance. Police theorized that a passing motorist could have whisked Paul away as he tried to reach the mountain. However, the case went cold, and there were no more developments. More than 2 weeks after Paul Jepson's vanishing, 53-year-old Frida Langer, an avid hiker, met a similar fate. She and her cousin, Herbert Elsner, were hiking 17 kilometers from Glastonbury Mountain at the Somerset Reservoir. After getting wet from falling into a creek, she went back to the campsite to change. Herbert stayed behind to wait for her on the trail. When Frida did not return, Herbert reported her missing. For the next 2 weeks, 400 people scoured the area extensively. 6 months later, her body was found 5.5 kilometers from the campsite. Coroners could not determine the cause of her death because of the corpse's accelerated decomposition. The folklore around the Bennington Triangle stems from UFOs, curses, Bigfoot, and more. The Abenaki tribe believed that Glastonbury Mountain was cursed, as it housed their dead at its base. However, there are several connections we can draw from these incidents to our victims. Paula and Paul ironically were both wearing the color red. All 5 victims disappeared in mid-afternoon around 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., not far from each other, and during the last 3 months of the year. The first thought that comes to mind is the work of a serial killer. However, the variety in sex and age does not fit the usual modus operandi of serial killer behavior. There is no set pattern. The rough terrain and unpredictable weather are the most plausible explanations. The wind patterns and temperature in the region are very erratic, particularly in winter. Because of the wind, plants have also grown. Third, less plausible theory is an animal attack. The area contains cougars and black bears. But eastern cougars are extremely rare, and 60 years ago, they were even rarer. They may have vanished entirely from New England for some decades around that time. That aside, cougar attacks are unusual, and while black bears have killed people on rare occasions, there has never been a serial killer black bear, unlike the occasional tiger in India or crocodile in Africa. On September 17, 2019, the remains of a modern victim, New York resident Jessica Hildenbrandt, were found near the Somerset Reservoir. Police determined that her death was a homicide. No leads have turned up about her killer. She was nicknamed Red by her family and friends. In August 2021, Joseph Schoenig was found in his truck at Somerset Reservoir with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. His truck was also red. Despite the variety of circumstances, the color red still remains consistent. Bennington Triangle is a phrase coined by American author Joseph A. Citro to denote an area of southwestern Vermont within which a number of people went missing between 1945 and 1950. This was further popularized into books, including Shadow Child, in which Citro devoted chapters to discussion of these disappearances and various items of folklore surrounding the area. According to Citro, the area shares characteristics with the Bridgewater Triangle in southeastern Massachusetts. The Bennington Triangle was featured as one of the haunted locations in the paranormal TV series Most Terrifying Places in America, which aired on the Travel Channel in 2018. The episode, titled Unnatural World, told the stories about the reportedly missing persons in a 5-year span, and local lore of the Bennington Monster, a Bigfoot-like creature that supposedly roams these wooded areas. The Bennington Triangle is still a mystery.